Welcome to Chautauqua People. My guest today is Jane Currie. She was born in England and crossed the Atlantic by ship 5 times before she reached age 5.
10.
She spent
Thank you.
She spent several years in Toronto and then moved to Chautauqua area and graduated from Mayville High School, the building where we are now. Subsequently, she studied studio art, ceramics, and oil painting. She graduated from college at Sonoma State in California. In time, she returned to this area where she did a great deal of photography, including my wedding pictures of several decades ago. Many Chautauquans will recognize her poster of the Chairs of Chautauqua, and that is clearly hung in a good number of homes. And the copy you're about to see came off the wall of my den and has been there for the 20-some-odd years we've been in that cottage. So this is a very famous item, and we're very happy to have you here today. And when we first started talking about an appearance, I didn't realize that I had a copy of that hanging, your work hanging in our den. So every night we go in there and take a look and have warm regards for it. Now, Jane oversaw the photographic editing of 5 Arcadia books concerning the local area. She currently manages a 90-year-old family business, Caldwell's Cheese House in DeWittville. Jane, how did you make your way to Chautauqua County?
My mother married Ford Cadwell, and we came over in 1952.
And they were in Britain at the time?
Actually, we were living in Toronto.
Toronto.
And she was able to meet him actually on a beach in Sarasota.
My goodness. What a romantic place to do it. Now, how did you pick up photography?
Well, both my mother and father and my stepfather all were very keen about cameras and photography and recording and saving moments in time.
Mm-hmm.
And so just sort of passed on.
So you were taught as a child then how to take pictures and
Oh, yes.
use a camera?
Yes. I have a little picture of my mother that I think I took when I was probably 5 or 6.
Really?
And I can see her sitting in this lounge chair out, in the sun. And then she's handed me the camera and she says, "Now hold the camera straight, darling," with a wonderful British accent.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first picture I ever took.
And so that went on from there. Do you remember the first camera you were given that was yours?
I think the first camera was a Minolta.
Mm-hmm.
And I used it for years, and that was pre-digital cameras.
Mm-hmm. Did you have to go to the darkroom?
I did darkroom work, yes.
And developed and made prints?
Yes, yeah, it's like a time capsule.
Okay.
You know, you never know how long you're in there. It's very exciting.
Right. And any favorite stories from inside there, copying some television program or whatever, where they had film developing or prints developing, anything like that?
I don't know what to say.
So
Yeah.
So indeed, you had a pretty good understanding then of the chemistry of all of this
Yes.
along the way.
Mm-hmm.
I think you made the comment we talked earlier that something wasn't sufficiently fixed,
That's right.
and indeed, therefore, it didn't have the stability.
That's right.
So presumably, your family was pretty strict about following the rules, so we have a good permanent photograph.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you did photography for many years in this area.
Mm-hmm.
What was the basic nature of the pictures you took?
Well, I started taking, of course, always landscapes and detailed pictures of the area and gardens. But then someone called me and said, "I know you take pictures. Would you photograph my wedding?" I said, "I don't do weddings, and who is this?" But that was my first wedding event, and continued for probably almost 30 years or even a little more, 30 years of it. Also portraits, of course.
Right. And when you did a wedding, did you do that alone, or did you bring somebody with you? Or
I started out alone. I was very brave.
Mm-hmm.
I only had one camera, no backup. I think of that now and it just scares me. But yes, I brought on a partner, and then we also decided on another woman to come in. I think you did a program with Diane Andrazik, and my partner is Pam Arnold. And so we worked together.
And use similar equipment then?
Yes, yes. We all handled Canon, and I'm not saying that is best or better than Nikon or any other, but if something happened, one of the cameras went down, something happened to a lens, we all had the same system, so it was all interchangeable.
So did you start out doing Canon stuff on film and then switched?
No, I started out with the Minolta on film, and then eventually graduated to the digital.
I think you used a twin lens reflex when you did work for us.
Did I?
I think you did. I don't know why I remember that stuff, but indeed, that's it. Now, you will probably be best known in the area for your work on these Arcadia books. And the books are significant. And the one that I think is certainly most of interest to me is the two of them. The first being this on the Chautauqua Lake region, and then another here we have on Chautauqua Institution. Let me put that up. I guess the Institution book was the first, was it not?
That's right.
So can you tell me a little bit about how these came about and what you did for them?
Well, I was in a bookstore and saw these sepia tone books by Arcadia, and they all seemed to be written by different people. So that meant probably people just who are interested in history, or perhaps had written books themselves or liked to take pictures. But anyway, we called the company and got a proposal, a package for doing a proposal. So that was necessary for each and every book. And fortunately, we're accepted.
And so they probably have a minimum number of books they print and that sort of thing.
It circulates quite widely, yes.
Really?
We're very happy about our circulation and how much they print, and the Chautauqua Institution carries them all, and we're very grateful for that, and I carry them in my shop too.
I noticed a couple of them in the institution earlier on when I was checking with a collection of local books. Now, how did you get this material?
Well, I'll tell you, with the first book, I was still working with film, and I had to photograph all these pictures, many of them from the archives at Chautauqua Institution. Then I had to send them to the publisher, and then they did their part, and I said with the second book, "What are you doing?" And she says, "Well, we scan them." I said, "Well, if you're scanning them, why aren't I?" And that's how we did the rest of the books, the next four, scanning these images.
Right. Now, did you spend a lot of time finding these pictures, or?
Yes, we went to, I'll tell you where we went. We went to libraries, to the newspaper in Jamestown. They were very generous. Personal collections, and sometimes I would ask people, do you have any old pictures? And they said, "Well, I got my grandmother's album, but there's nothing there." Well, indeed there was. There was a treasure trove of pictures that a lot were used in these books.
And so you would, if you have somebody's grandmother's scrapbook, then that would probably be ideal for a scanner, would it not?
Yes, they let me have the pictures. And then again, if I couldn't get the picture to be given to me to take away from them, I had a computer and a scanner in my cheese shop on the back counter. And they could come in, they could watch what I was doing, and I could hand the picture back to them safely.
So that was all set up in the shop? And
yeah, we did these in the summer months.
Why?
And I was working.
Because the shop was open and that? What?
Yeah. I go away to Florida in the winter, one of those snowbirds.
Mhm.
So it doesn't make any sense to try and work on something locally here
Right.
and be out of state.
Right,
So that's why we do them while we're here.
right. How many years' work would it take you to put together a book?
We did them quite quickly. In fact, Chautauqua Institution was 2000, I think it was, no, 2001, and the second book, the Chautauqua Lake Region, that came out in 2002.
So a year essentially to do the
Oh, even less.
less.
Mhm.
And how were they received?
I think they were received very well, and the feedback I would get from some of my customers or people that we did talks for, they were so grateful that we did this to save this history, save these pictures, and put it down. And too much is lost as it is, we know that. But to search and find these pictures, and I especially like finding things that had never been published before.
Mm-hmm. Now, you did the photographic work, and then there's substantial text at points along the way. How did that get divided up?
Well, my co-author, Kathleen Crocker Evans, she was a retired school teacher. And funny thing is, we found out that her father and my stepdad, they rode the same trolley to go to school.
Really?
And they were born, both of them, about 1904. So she basically did the writing. And that's one of the things I thought would be important, that it had the same tone and same flavor, because we both write differently. And I always said, she let me put a word in once in a while. But and not being visual on her side, her case, she was so good with the written word, but I'm more visual. And I did some of the repairs. Let's say there was a break or scratch or something in there. It took out some of the dust spots. And sometimes we need to give a little density if an old picture had faded. And then my part also was to do the layout.
So let's go back for just a minute. So when you had to do a little bit of the cleanup, did you use some kind of software package for that, or how did you do
It was
it?
done on the computer with Photoshop.
Photoshop. And you could take away some dust marks and the like.
Yeah.
That's just a matter of being patient, I guess, with the Photoshop. Now, tell me about the layout, and let's just open a random page here and put you on the spot. Here's one. Looks like kids having loads of fun. We'll make trouble for Devin, and then I'm going to pass it to you in just a minute.
Okay.
And we've got groups of kids here. Everybody gets a good look at this. Now, how did you decide what goes together?
Well, that's the question that Kathleen had said. I said, well, I think the best way to consider this is, since I've never done it before, let's lay this out like we would a wedding album. One side has to relate to the other. And in this case, we have all these this old picture of the little girls here, and then here's a later version of girls at Chautauqua. And both sides have to do with the same theme.
And so that all fit together.
So it fits, yeah.
So then, what was the driver? The pictures or the text?
She would get very upset because everybody liked to look at the pictures. She says, well, what about the words? Didn't you read it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And one trained in photography, I can relate to your position on that very well. And so that worked just fine. And this is one that punctuates it again. I'm going to hold it back up, make more trouble for Devin here. And we can see then pictures of 4 very substantial buildings, aren't they?
Yes. These are buildings in Chautauqua. There's the Lutheran House, the Methodist House, the Chapel of Good Shepherd, and another one that is from the King's Daughters and Sons. So there again, they relate to each other.
And that was just sort of careful and thoughtful work, was it not?
Mhm.
And well, we lost that page, doesn't matter.
Oh.
The pictures are the same, the buildings are the same size, and so that they were compatible,
Yes, yeah.
and that fit. And so we put this together. Most of the pictures are historic, very few that look to be recent.
Mhm.
Let's switch gears for a minute. Let's talk about the other book, Chautauqua Lake Region. And how did you, if Devin is still here, there's this story on the cover here, and you told me about this.
Mhm.
So let everybody get a good look at it, and then tell us about the cover.
Well, I had another photo of this is an old city of Jamestown, and there were many on the Chautauqua, and I was going to use that. And then I came across this one with the ladies in the boat, and now we have a human element, and it made it far more interesting, I think. Most of these covers, the Arcadia Publishing Company wants to choose, so they make us send in several pictures that they can choose. On this one, my partner, photo partner, actually did a mock-up of this, and we sent it in by computer to her, to our publisher, and we said, how do you like it? She says, I love it. It's the only one that I got to choose the cover on.
Well chosen. Well chosen. And so that's it. We probably don't know the identity of these folks.
No.
But indeed, it sort of typifies a couple of things on the water, doesn't it? The people take a boat ride, and then individually go out canoeing or
And most of the books they do, there's always the human element.
yeah.
They want people on the
Yeah.
covers.
And so indeed, we had it on both of them.
Both of these and the others.
Yeah, yeah. Now, let me ask you a couple more questions along the way here. We've done this work, and brought them all together. The focus then was to get human pictures along the way. It took you about maybe a year or a little less to put together the book, and these were all done. Pictures presumably were all done on film. Let's talk about our current situation today. You've made the transition from film cameras, and presumably when you were using film cameras, doing a wedding as a team, you had a higher rate of failure, mechanical failure, because there was so much going on in there. It would take some extra gear. How did things change when you made the transition to digital?
Well, first of all, it became much more economical because we didn't have to pay for film, for processing, for printing, for the for them to review, and we could take a lot more pictures and edit them. And having my two partners with me, we had different focal lengths. We had a different eye, Each of us photographed differently. And we just love the digital world, so much easier than quickly loading a camera with film and then wondering if it's all, you have to send it in. You don't know what you've got until you get it back.
How many pictures would you take for a wedding, typically on a digital?
I can tell you that I know one wedding, I think we took 700 amongst us. That's a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
But you edit them down to the best. And there's no problem. You're not paying for each one.
Right. And then you would give them some kind of email, probably with the pictures to select the ones they wanted final prints
Yeah,
of.
sometimes I give them a preview book. Yeah.
Put a watermark on them or something of the sort, so that.
Well, I should have.
Okay, and then that went away. Now, what is going to happen today? How are people taking pictures?
Oh, they're using iPhones, aren't they?
Yeah. Do you see that as being a matter of permanence?
For the images?
Yeah.
No. No, I think pictures, they need to be printed, and a lot of people have printers at home, A lot can go to labs, professional labs, or sometimes you can even go to Walmart, for instance, and have them printed out.
Can you show us what one of them might look like if you would take it and have some pictures printed up today?
Yeah, this is just an idea.
Yeah.
You can take your digital camera and send the pictures to various places. Let's say I did mention Walmart. And you can order books. And they would be hardcover or softcover. Generally, they have so many pages at one price, but if you want more, then you pay extra per page. But what a wonderful way to keep pictures. This happens to be my great-grandchild,
Really?
just being born, you see. But how about pictures from a trip, or pictures of your children, say 1 year at a time, as he progresses or grows. Some of your best scenery pictures could go in a book. They would be beautiful. So there they are. They're not sitting in a hard drive or a computer, and you can look at them, you can handle them. It's kind of like, I don't think I would enjoy reading a book on a, what is it, a Kindle or something?
Yeah.
I like to hold a book. I like to feel it in my hands, turn the pages. So that's...
I'm the same way. I like to go out on the porch if the weather is right, with a book and a mug of coffee and a little bit of very soft music, and read for a couple hours like that.
Yeah.
That works out. But if somebody doesn't go the extra mile, have it printed on a book like this, what's to happen?
Well,
to pictures.
We don't know yet how long this lasts. They're fragile.
Yeah.
The best thing to do, of course, is to transfer them to external hard drives. And in our cases, we sometimes do a second one, and maybe a third one, because you never know, something can go down. And when you buy these hard drives, don't go cheap. You've got to get the best quality, and they will last longer.
And are you talking from experience or folklore? Or?
Well, yes. In fact, I had an external hard drive, and I got out of the car and it dropped to the ground. There was no retrieving. I sent it in to professionals to see if they could get those pictures back, but it wasn't. And I hadn't put them on a second hard drive. I only had one. Now, if they were on that second hard drive, it wouldn't have been such a shock.
Right, right. I know I shoot a good deal of video, and the rule of thumb there is you want to make 2 protection copies, so you have a total of 3. One should be on external hard drive, and one should be stored off-site, so that if you're burglarized or there's a fire or something, then you're not totally lost.
Yes.
But indeed, it takes a period of time. So I've shot several programs here at Chautauqua, but the off-site will not be carried out here until I go home at the end of the summer. And maybe some would say that's living dangerously.
Well, I'll tell you a story about a wedding. There was a couple that shot together. They both took the same situations and pictures, and when they had, this is on film at that time, they sent them in to labs in different mailings, and they were so sure that they would be able to certainly get one set back. So they were preserving the pictures twice. And then I think they also had a place off, like you say, off-site to store them in case something happened. But that was extreme backup, I think, to have 2 people shooting the same wedding at the same time.
And if you take pictures of a wedding and you don't have good results, you're in trouble.
Oh, indeed, yes.
Absolutely in trouble. I know some of those cases have ended up in court, and not a very happy situation.
No.
We've got only a few minutes left, but I can't resist. You got to tell me about the Cheese House.
Oh, well, the Cheese House is actually 95 years this year.
95 years.
Yes. I'm kind of hoping I can hold out till the centennial.
Mm-hmm.
But it was started by my stepfather in 1927,
Mm-hmm.
and the vat is still in the cheese house. It held 400 gallons, what do I want to say, 400 gallons of milk a day.
Whoa.
Yeah. And he made the cheese for 20 years, from 1927 to 1947. Now I order through distributors. I have 2 distributors that come every week.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm open only seasonally because the weather here is not conducive to people coming unless they're skiing or ice fishing. But I'm open around Memorial Day till Columbus Day.
Mm-hmm. What sorts of products do you carry? Cheese products?
At one time I counted that we had about 35 different types.
Really?
Right now I'm having a little trouble getting European cheeses.
Mm-hmm.
They're not being exported.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think New York State cheddar is the favorite.
And people just come in and order large amounts of that?
Well, they'll get a. I always say, look, you don't have to make a decision. You can have whatever you want in smaller quantities. So it isn't a matter of having to choose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that works out very well. Now, when we talked, you made mention of something which I hadn't realized, and it punctuates the value of these books, and that is about Point Chautauqua.
Mm-hmm.
And that's down the road from the cheese house.
Mm-hmm.
And can you tell us a little bit about the history of that?
Well, Point Chautauqua is unique in that it was designed by Frederick Law Olmsted. He also designed Central Park, the park systems in Washington, D.C., and the linking parks that are up in Buffalo was his first project with the multiple parks that sort of fit together.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite a unique place. And I understand when I was reading something about him, he didn't like the grid system in Chautauqua Institution. His idea was to have keep the major trees, follow the terrain, and so everyone would have a nice view of the lake, and it's a very pleasant and beautiful place.
I had to drive through there after our pre-production discussion. I think you hit it exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Very much of a flowing area.
Yes.
And just about every house, most of the houses were very substantial for the time, but they had a unique sort of lot. They were sited for that little bit of land,
Mm-hmm.
and indeed just about everything,
Mm-hmm.
with very few exceptions, very good view of the lake.
And my
probably-
stepdad actually built with his father many of the houses there.
He did.
Mm-hmm. And he was born there too.
Olmsted was born?
No, my stepfather.
Your stepfather was
Yeah,
born there?
yeah.
Okay.
So it's very personal.
So strong connections. Jane, I can't believe it. We are out of time. And what else do we need to cover? Anything they think that is significant?
I'm just very pleased to be here.
It's
Thank
fun.
you for the invitation.
Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Do come back.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.